Hello, Jambi here. This will be my second video diary. Thanks for the comments on the first one. It was really nice to hear people resonating with some of those messages. It has been an interesting week. Business has been really slow this year. That hasn't helped my confidence levels and the anxiety I've felt with living rurally and just not really feeling on top of my game. You know, I was talking about in the last one, lack of connection to the community, feeling like a bit of an outsider, whilst also trying to sell to the community all the goodies that I've got. I think it has impacted my business, so which is fine. It's always ebbed and flowed. I've always just enjoyed the process, and I'm not such a keen businesswoman that I'm trying to dominate the scene or anything. I like having a peaceful way about going about my business. If people want something, I help them. It's very much it's almost like a service-based website rather than just an e-commerce website. But yeah, business has been slow this year. I think, we've just gone through winter in Australia, and there's a whole lot of things that I'm attributing it to, but it's been so slow that I've had to then go get another job, which is the first time in a few years, which is fine. It's always good to get back in the workforce. Remember what it's like to do a 9 to 5. It's terrifying. But I applied for a job at the Walker Council just as a receptionist, which keen. I thought it was a great opportunity, like in my last video, sort of saying that I'm really lacking some social interaction, and I thought it was a good opportunity to learn to get to know the town a bit more. There's a lot of women working in the office. Maybe they're not so keen on cycling, but doesn't mean that I can't get along with them. In the same way that just because you ride a bike doesn't make us besties, just because you don't ride a bike doesn't mean that we can't be besties. Actually my bestie doesn't ride a bike at all, so yeah, well, anyway, so I went for that job, and it was my first interview. I thought I was fine in interview processes. I was sort of pretty relaxed, pretty confident in my skill level, and when I got in there I sort of started to get a bit tingly. But I felt, and also when they were asking questions, I really could feel myself disassociating and really struggling to listen to their questions. So a couple of them I felt were pretty airy responses, but that's fine. They called me this morning saying that I got the job. Which is great. So it's covering somebody's maternity leave in Walker Council, and so it's a 7 to 12 month role. And the role is really varied. It's sort of the way that they described it is taking a lot of incoming calls and directing them through to the right people that can help answer their questions, and a lot of customer service based stuff. People coming in, paying for things, asking questions. I love being a pillar for people's information, so I think I'll really thrive in that. And then it's also sort of doing some bank runs and maybe organizing if someone's got a birthday. Stability. We're changing, we're evolving, we're learning, we're building, we're expanding. And then something else that happened this week was that I went into my first triathlon, and I went into it, I just signed up the night before, and I was like, yeah, okay, it must have been, a day before, because I had to gather up my stuff, and then I drove down to Port Stephens to Fingal Bay, which was beautiful, and then I had to borrow somebody's bike pump. I had to run around and touch base with a friend in Newcastle to see if I can borrow a little piece I needed for my headset, and then had to go to Bunnings to try to get a certain tool just to try to get my bike on the road. even though it was an off-road triathlon. And yeah, it was really good. Actually, I didn't complete the whole course, even though I haven't told anybody that yet. I'm not ashamed in any way. What ended up happening was I smashed the swim. I haven't done an ocean swim for like 15 years, but I used to do them extremely regularly when I was young because I was a competitive swimmer. So I felt very comfortable sort of getting in the water. Everyone else was wearing wetsuits and I just had my little togs on. And I was like, oh, I hope the water isn't cold. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't swum for so long that I was like, I don't know what a case feels like. Don't know if I'm like going into it like underestimating what a kilometer feels like swimming. So anyways, it was really good. And I sort of found myself at the front of the pack in the swimming section, and started sort of like mowing down some of the men that had gone before us. So I came out of that feeling pretty good, looking like a total noob on the entrance, or on the entrance, and feeling like I was the only one in like a pair of swimmers, everyone else in like pretty schmick gear, and loved being the like no gear and the idea, as opposed to all the gear and no idea kind of gal. And yeah, so came out of the swim pretty good, jumped on my bike. Honestly, it'd been the first time I'd ridden my mountain bike in months and months. So I was pretty cold on that, and felt like the cycling bit was probably going to be the hardest leg for me. It was really steep. My bike was sort of not running great. My bars, which I'd done this morning, were sort of a little bit skewed. I was sort of riding in Converse and just wasn't really like equipped, where I had all these people racing past me. I was like, ooh. So I just sort of relaxed into my own rhythm, and then I ended up catching up to this guy, and I can't remember his name, but I said, how's it going? And he's like, shit house. And so I liked him immediately, and he just was telling me that he's riding his stepson's bike, and he really sort of like didn't look like he'd ever done this before. And I was like, you know, started talking to him, I was like, ever done this before? He's like, nah. My friend sort of roped me into it and last week, and I was like, yeah, nice. And we ended up sort of riding along and chatting more, and I was, you know, we were saying jokes and laughing at ourselves, and had a really fun time. And then the part of the cycling was like 2 loops of like a 15k track, and I was like, you know, we can only do one. And he's like, you reckon? I was like, yeah, I mean, it's our first go. Let's like, we prioritize enjoyment. And so we ended up like really enjoying the last like bit of the 15k loop, and it turned to be really fun because you'd spent sort of the first half climbing up and on these fire trails that were pretty boring, and then it started getting a little bit more single tracky and started including some technical stuff, and like that, it ended up being really fun. And by the end of it, I was like, I could go again because I liked that last section. But we ended up just going straight into the run, and by that stage, because we'd skipped a second half of the cycling, we were back with like the elites. So we were jogging, you know, like looking like noobs surrounded by these 7'8" triathlete, gorgeous men and women that were just like prime of their life. And I was like, nice, this is good. And the running section was fabulous. And then the last bit was running in the soft sand on the beach, which was really hard because I have like holes all through my shoes, and it was just collecting sand and then running through the water, and then the sand gets heavy, and then so it was like a couple of kilometers of really me dragging my feet, feeling like I had sandbags on my feet. But I finished in my own version and it was great. It took me about 3 hours, and yeah, I would love to do it again. So that was kind of that experience. And I also feel like this job in the triathlon attempt has sort of like really signified to me that all these micro barriers or challenges that I was talking about in the last video. I want to identify them and I want to get past them. I'm ready for some new barriers and challenges that I can try to get over. I'm sick of these ones being in front of me. Yeah, so that's about it. Today I'm just packing up a couple of orders. I've got some work with the Tenterfield Council creating some more routes for up there. They're doing a great cycling initiative, like push with some grant funding and stuff, so just creating some routes and presenting them online for people to go up there, hopefully come through Walker, hopefully come visit me. Yeah, so the New England High Country is going to be an epicenter of cycling in a couple of years, I feel. Thanks for tuning in. Have a nice day, everybody.